We've all been there. You type a name into Ancestry's search bar, you hit enter, and you get nothing. Or worse, you get everything, including the kitchen sink. Thousands of results. Sound familiar? Neither of these two results is particularly helpful. So today we're going to look at the Ancestry Search page, how to find it, how to use it, and I'll show you 5 helpful tips to get the most out of your search. Now, if I was a 25-year-old YouTuber, I'd probably call them hacks, but I'm definitely not 25, and a good many of my subscribers aren't either. So, helpful tips it is. 5 helpful tips for finding your ancestors using Ancestry Search today on Family Tree 123. Hey, welcome to the channel where building your family tree is as easy as 1, 2, 3. My name is Jonathan Mills, and today we're going in search of ancestors using the Ancestry Search page. We'll tackle a question that comes up and again. How do you actually find your family on Ancestry? But before we get into that, cue the legal. Ancestry is a trademark of Ancestry and its affiliated entities, and this channel, Family Tree 123, and its content is not sponsored, affiliated, etc., etc., etc. Okay, enough of that. Let's get started. Even if you're not an Ancestry subscriber, you can do a search on the website. Just start by going to the homepage, ancestry.com. Up on the top menu, select Genealogy, then select Search, and from the drop-down menu, choose All Collections. Now, add the name and details for someone. I'm going to add my great-granduncle Charlie Walker. And I'll do a couple of filters in order to narrow the search, and hey, I found my ancestor. At least I'm pretty sure that's my ancestor. Some of the information is blurred out. If I mouse over it, it says, "There's more to see. Click to sign up now." The paywall. Challenge number 1. If you want to see the results from an Ancestry website search, you have 2 options. First, you can go to a public library. Most have free access to a version of Ancestry that you can search. You can't save the results to your personal account, but you can see the search results. Or you can sign up for a free trial, and if you like what you see, you can subscribe in order to gain access to Ancestry's enormous collection of records. So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to assume that you are an Ancestry subscriber. So here I am, logged into my account, starting at my homepage on Ancestry. I'm going to go up here to the main menu and select Search. Then I'm going to choose All Collections. And here we are again at this basic input screen, which is asking for the person's name, their first and last name, and optionally the place where they might have lived, and their year of birth. The more information you can add here, the more likely you are to get useful results. Have you ever been traveling and you've said to somebody, hey, I'm from New York, and they say, New York City? I have a friend who lives in New York. His name is Bob. Do you know him? Buddy, you're going to have to provide a little bit more information than that. So the same is true with an Ancestry search. Notice that as you add information to each search field, it gives you the option to click the box below that says Exact. Let's look at the birth date, for example. I'll add a birth date and check the box Exact, and now it gives the option to select a range of dates, depending on how confident you are about that particular birth date. It's good to add a date if you have an idea, but if you want the software to have the maximum flexibility in searching, you can leave the box unchecked. So before you search, it's always worthwhile to ask family members for as much information as you can find about your ancestor. Full names, approximate birth years, birthplaces, and death date as close as possible. The more context you can give the search engine, the better your results will be. So when I run this search for my relative, Charles Walker, it comes back with a huge number of hits. So we're going to want to narrow down the results. Your first option is to use these sliders up here on the left. They show you how precise you made your initial information. For the birth date, just for example, was it exactly 1865 or was it plus or minus 2 years or plus or minus 3 years or more? You can adjust these sliders and see how that affects your results. If you need more control over your search, you can go back to the original search screen by selecting this edit pencil. Now let's look into the advanced search options. Your search page may already show the advanced search options. If not, you can toggle them on or off using this link here at the bottom of the screen. All of these optional fields act as filters, refining your search by narrowing the focus. Search by event, birth, marriage, death, place lived in, or by any event. And also a more drop-down menu for immigration and military. Now let's see how this works. We'll use the lived in example. When you click it, it pops open a new row for lived in, and it has a date range and a location. So let's say you're searching for a person who lived in Michigan between 1890 and 1905. You can select Add Range and put those dates in. Then add a location. Note, as you type, the software will pop up suggestions. So try starting with the town or city, then the state, province, and then the country. In this case, I'm going to type in Ann Arbor, Michigan, US. Always select what pops up below the screen when you're typing, just because these are the precise places according to Ancestry. You can do the same with these events, birth, marriage, and death. If you know the death date, for example, or even an approximate death date, you can select this option. Add your information to this new row that's been added, and continue adding more filters. Also note, if you want to remove any of these rows, just click that X up in the right corner, and it will remove the whole row. Again, you can see Add Family Member. If you know the parent, sibling, spouse, or child of the person you're searching for, you can add this filter. Here again is a keyword box. This is another way of narrowing down your search, and it shows examples here, such as occupation or street address. We also have filters for gender, for race or nationality. And finally, a collection focus. Now, your next steps will depend on your search results. If you search for John Smith without any filters, your list of names is going to be astronomical and basically useless. So you'll need to use more filters, more estimated dates in order to narrow your search. If you're searching for a unique name like, Adoniram Snowball, your search may come back with 0 results. And in that case, you're going to want to reduce the specificity of your filters. Change an exact birth date, for example, to a range of dates. Or instead of searching for a specific place, like Ann Arbor, just change the search to the state of Michigan or leave it blank. If you get too many results, start by adjusting the sliders or by going back to edit your search criteria and try to narrow down your search. Then see how these changes affect the results. Gradually tighten your search until you hone in on the right person. Your next step will depend on your initial results. Let's deal with 0 results first. What can you do if your search comes back empty? Well, if you're new to genealogy, the most important thing you need to know is this. Living people are not searchable in Ancestry's records. You can only search for family members who are already deceased. And this is for privacy. So when you are building your family tree on Ancestry, you can add profiles for living people, but these profiles are hidden by default. You're the only person who can see them. Genealogy is, by its very nature, backward-looking, searching for ancestors using historical documents, census records, birth, marriage, and death records, immigration lists, and so on. All of these documents are kept private for a period of time to help protect living people. For example, United States Census records are released 72 years after they're recorded. UK birth registrations are released 90 years after they were recorded. So if you're trying to track down a living cousin or find out where you can locate a relative today, Ancestry Search simply is not the ideal tool for that purpose. But for tracing your family line back through history, finding grandparents, great-grandparents, and beyond, it's incredibly powerful. In most Western countries, the sweet spot for genealogy is roughly 1850 to 1975, earlier in many countries. But the other important point here to consider is how Ancestry is designed to work. Most people don't build their family tree by searching for people. Instead, the most common way of finding your ancestors is primarily by building your family tree. Most of us don't know the names of our ancestors, so we locate them by adding generations to our own family tree. Ancestry and most genealogical software is designed to help you find your ancestors in this way. Having said that, there may still be times when you will need to search for someone. The reality is the search function in Ancestry has many options to help you find who you're looking for. And here are a few tips to improve your odds of finding who you're looking for. One of the common issues we face when working on our family tree is the occurrence of name variations. If you're looking for the surname Smith, you won't find records for an ancestor who spelled their name with a Y, Smythe. Why are there variant spellings for names in the historical records? Well, there's several possible reasons. Let me just name a few. Before the mid-1800s, spelling doesn't seem to have been as important, and individuals can often be seen spelling their own name differently on different occasions, or maybe they were illiterate and somebody else had to write it for them. Sometimes names have natural variations, like MacDonald and McDonald. That's basically the same name, and it can be used interchangeably. In census records, the enumerator may have misheard a name and written it down incorrectly. Or the person giving the information may have used an alternative name. For example, they might have said Lizzie for Elizabeth, or Bill instead of William. Sometimes a census enumerator may have spelled the name correctly, but the person transcribing the record can't read the handwriting, and they've recorded it incorrectly. There are many reasons why the records may be spelled differently from what you are expecting. So here are some helpful tips for finding these alternative spellings. Tip number 1. Use wildcard characters, and the most powerful one is the asterisk. This will represent up to 5 unknown characters in a name. So you can catch variations on Frederick, for example, by typing F-R-E asterisk. This will highlight Freddie, Fred, and so on. You can use this in the middle of a name too. M asterisk Donald will give both McDonald or MacDonald. Tip number 2, use the other wildcard character, the question mark. This will only look for one single character variation. So for example, Smith with a question mark will catch both Smith or Smythe. Tip number 3, consider common alternate spellings for given names or first names. Given names are often names with common short forms that you may wish to consider. We already looked at this with the enumerator. One example is William. Using W asterisk will not catch Bill as an abbreviated version. And there are many variations of William: Will, Willie, Bill. The same goes for Robert. It can be Bob or Rob or Bobby. And Elizabeth is often Lizzie or Beth. So you may want to try using a few of these variations in your searches. Tip number 4, consider alternate spellings for surnames. We've already mentioned Smith and Smythe. A name may be spelled differently, or sometimes it gets shortened over time. Here are a few common examples. Longstreet can become Long. Brown with an E may be shortened to Brown without an E. So some common English surname changes involve changing a Y to an I or dropping the silent E at the end of a name. Tip number 5. Names can change significantly when a person moves from one country to another where a different language is spoken. In English-speaking countries, immigrants may have names that are difficult to pronounce or spell in English, so it's common for surnames to be anglicized. For example, in Nova Scotia, Canada, there is a surname, Wynot. That's derived from the German Weihnacht, which means Christmas. Some other examples. In my family, we have a German heritage name, Stief, in New Brunswick, which is now today called Steves. There's also a common Welsh name, Llewellyn, which can be Fluellen or Llewellyn with many alternative spellings. And again, in my own family, the Ukrainian name Kuchmak, which is from this original spelling. I assume it's pronounced the same. I would encourage you to ask AI about possible name variations for your surname. However you choose to approach the question, it's useful to do some research on ethnic names based on your own heritage. Searching for ancestors can be frustrating. There are times when we have searched extensively and we can find no results until we're about ready to give up. Other times we may have so many results that it's like searching for a needle in a haystack. But as you can see, the search page on Ancestry's website is a very powerful tool for finding missing relatives. You can broaden your search with wildcards, or you can narrow it using filters. And we've really just begun to scratch the surface today. There are so many more strategies that you can employ to find an elusive ancestor. Obviously, you can't find records that don't exist, and every search will eventually come to a brick wall that can't be broken through. But the search is the challenge, and if you're inclined to enjoy research, as I am, the journey is half the fun. I hope this episode has given you some new tools and maybe rekindled some excitement for the research ahead. Thank you so much for watching. If you found the video helpful, you know what to do, and I'll see you next time.